What is a trigger?
Yes, such a good first question. Let's get our definitions together. So the way I think of a trigger, it's a word, an action, or an experience that awakens within us as parents strong, difficult feelings like powerlessness, sadness, anger, or fear. So and they're words, actions, or experiences from our children, right? That awakens within us strong, difficult feelings. Now, I have to say, a trigger in general doesn't necessarily have to awaken strong, difficult feelings. Like I think I've said before, 80s music is a trigger for me. Whenever I hear 80s music, I get like feel good, nostalgic feelings, you know? But when we're talking about parenting, and the way that I use it with my clients and with my groups, it's usually associated with those more difficult feelings that we experience.
That's funny. 80s music is the opposite effect of me. It like brings back high school, and I'd rather just forget about high school. So I'm like 80s music. I'm like, oh, please. But I get the trigger. And so it's evoking a feeling. And you said, is it because we have a memory, not just with what's happening right now with our kids, but like maybe something from the distant past, or is it also something that can come up from the near past?
Yeah, both and, you know, and this is often where I try to get really specific. So the trigger is the word, action, or the experience. When the feelings that we have is often what that trigger evokes. So if the word, the action, or the experience awakens a memory or something from our recent past or a distant past, it can do both. Okay. But it's often just something that brings up that sense of, oh, you know, within us, whatever it happens to be in the moment.
I have to say, when you say awakens, I'm just thinking of like this giant that's rearing up, because that's kind of the visual I have of like a trigger for me. It's like some giant feeling that's like, uh-oh, here it comes.
Yes, yeah. It's funny you say that, because I often invite people to think of their triggers as like, you know, though I appear to be one being, I like to think of myself as having many different parts. And people are often like, oh, so you want me to have multiple personality disorder? Well, we kind of do. You know, and so though we appear to be one person, we have all these different parts. And we often hear it and we say, well, a part of me wants to do this, but another part of me really wants to do that, right? And so there might be a triggered part of me that carries anger, or a triggered part of me that carries overwhelm, or, you know, so sometimes it is like, it can feel like waking a sleeping giant, right? You might have a part of you that's equivalent to a sleeping giant that just,
yes,
you know?
Yes.
And that makes a lot of sense. So when we're thinking about transforming triggers, are we thinking like, okay, we're going to get to the point where our kid does that thing that evokes in us that thing, and I'm just going to be calm and joyful about it and like not be annoyed? Is that realistic? What can we hope for?
Yeah, that sounds so nice, doesn't it? Yeah, no, that's not realistic. At least not for most people. I mean, unless you got like that Jesus Buddha levitating thing going on, that's probably not going to be what often happens. But we have this myth that feelings are either good or bad, and difficult emotions or bad, and feel good emotions are good. And we don't want to put anything out there when we're around our child that can be bad. So we often say like, oh, I got angry, or I felt overwhelmed. And then that leads to guilt and shame and all of these things. But those emotions, they just are. They're not good or bad. They just are. And what they are, they're just signposts that give us information about our needs and about what's going on in the moment, right? And I really think it's important that we, especially as parents, we release that myth, right? That we have to get to the point where we're calm all the time, and we're kind all the time, and we feel good all the time, because it does a few things. The first thing it does is it teaches for our children that those difficult emotions are bad and that they shouldn't have them, right? And so at the same time, we're telling ourselves, I have to be calm and kind and nice all the time, but your big emotions are okay, right? And then our kids call bullcrap on us, as they should, you know? And they're like, really? How about this big emotion? How about this big emotion? You know? And so I think it's really important for their sake that we realize, like, they're just feelings. And when we get angry or overwhelmed, or we go on autopilot, all of those are just normal reactions to stressful experiences, right? So it's really important that we, I think, release that myth. The other thing that it can do, holding on to that myth in a paradoxical way, is it can lead us to descend into stable misery. Because if I'm spending all of my time trying to push down those parts of me that are carrying all of those bad feelings, then they don't go away, right? They're still there, and they're manifesting in different ways. And how they can manifest is in us feeling overwhelmed or unhappy, unfulfilled over a consistent period of time, which is basically what stable misery is. And we want to enjoy our kids, you know, they're only kids for so long. And if we're parenting in stable misery all the time because we're so busy trying to repress feelings that we don't like, then that doesn't feel good, you know? And then the last thing I'll say is the overall, I describe what we shouldn't do, you know, like, no, that is not realistic. But I think what is helpful is to understand the overall needs that are driving those difficult behaviors. And I know you all talk about needs a lot, you know, and being able to focus on like, what's the need driving that, right? So what's the need driving those behaviors? I have a good friend of mine, Martina. She's a therapist, and she talks about how different parts of us can drive the bus at different points in time. And when we're triggered, basically there's an overwhelmed or angry aspect of us that's like hopping in the driver's seat of our inner bus, right? And going for a ride and realizing that, right? And understanding what that part of us needs in that moment can really help us, more so than muzzling that part of us and sticking it in the back of the bus and pretending it doesn't exist.